Dr. Megan Woods.
Chairman. It's always my pleasure, Mr. Chairman, to take a call where I can give a speech that talks about the innovative economy and job creation. Thank you, Mr. Mallard. Because this is about New Zealand's natural advantage. This is about our raw material that is our talent that underpins New Zealand's future. And underpinning that is our intellectual property law, and specifically our patent law, and how it is that we are going to protect our economy in the 21st century and what that economy is based on. As colleagues have talked about, and I want to acknowledge the work of members right across this House. I want to acknowledge the hard work of my colleague Claire Curran next to me, who I'm sure will be taking a call on this in the very near future to finish the story she started telling about what this law means to New Zealand. But I want to acknowledge the work that's gone on around the House, because bill does balance the two interests that need to be balanced within any considerations of intellectual property. First, it allows innovators to profit from their inventions. It allows the people that put in the work and their talent and their ideas to commercialise their ideas and to make businesses out of this. And this in Labour is actually something that we celebrated, and was one of the reasons why we thought that an R&D tax credit was a reasonably good idea, because these are the kind of measures we need to have to celebrate innovation. But what we also need to be very careful of as legislators in this country, and I think this bill does this very well, is that we balance out the monopoly rights that accompany patents and make sure that they are not unduly exploited. And that is really important. About 3 weeks ago, I had the pleasure of attending the launch of Sean Hendy's excellent new book, Get Off the Grass, that talks about innovation in New Zealand. This was a book that Sean started with Sir Paul Callaghan before his death, and that Sean finished upon Sean finished off. And one of the things that Sean talked about extensively in this book and talks about in this book is the innovation networks that exist in New Zealand. And one of the ways in which he explores these innovation networks is through our patenting system. Who's collaborating with who? Who is it? Because it is this ability for people to work together and to commercialise these ideas that underpins this. And I really encourage people to go and look at this, because it is this culture of innovation. It are these innovation networks that underpin this. We see that sitting at the centre of these are universities that are committed to research-based excellence, and flowing out from this are all kinds of opportunities that can be commercialised. But in order to do that, to have New Zealand businesses that can make successful companies out of these ideas, we need the ability to protect our intellectual property. And Mr. Chairman, we are in New Zealand where much of our expertise does lie in our ability in the agri-tech sector. And we do need to realise that much of our intellectual property is in the form of living organisms, that it is our plant variety rights, it is our ability to utilise these. The ability for us to protect plant variety rights in this country is the basis of the business model under which Zespri operates. Hort 16A, which is gold kiwi fruit, is the other way in which it's known, is a plant variety right that was developed by Hort Research. And it is the very basis of how it is that Zespri is able to make its way in the world. It has the proprietary rights on this fruit, and it is the way in which it can survive. Not only is it in terms of Hort 16A that is incredibly important to us and our need to be able to protect those technologies, because we need to understand New Zealand's technological future in a very complicated way. It's not just about factories pumping things out. These are important. It's not just about software. that is undoubtedly important. But the technological basis of what our agricultural sector will be and how we will transform ourselves as an agricultural nation from being a mere commodity producer is something that we need to think about in a sophisticated way and what will underpin that. Not only do we have the example of Hort 16A, the plant variety right, that is crucial to the commercial success of Zespri, when we think about our apple exports, Mr. Chairman, when we think about our when we think about our apple exports and what this is worth to our economy, over $1 billion a year in apple exports alone that are premised on 70% of those exports are premised on 4 varieties. One of those varieties being Jazz apple, again a plant variety right that is developed by some excellent talent in this country at Hort Research, something that can be protected under plant variety rights, and it's really important that we have the ability to do this. Another example where we actually do have to think about what it is that a 21st century economy that is sustainable and has that absolutely at its heart is our ability to protect our intellectual property in terms of our pasture in New Zealand. How is it that New Zealand is going to radically reduce its greenhouse emission? It is through the development of new pastures. It is the way, when our dairy sector is one of the largest emitters in our country, we need the ability to protect some of the excellent work that Grasslands is doing around various pasture types. And I'm going to talk more about some of these examples and what the ability to protect this kind of intellectual property means when we get to part 3 of the bill. But Mr. Chairman, I'd like to congratulate colleagues across the House. I think this is a timely piece of legislation that has had a long time in gestation and a lot of hard work into it. And thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Stephen Brown.